Alright, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, humans and pets alike, welcome back to 2021 Wild Rift Asia Brawl Group Stage Day 3. Today, we got a lot more exciting matches. Somebody may say it's even more exciting than the day before. Some may argue differently, but it's all for you to decide. Today's matchup of Chakamuk versus AE Rift, Ether Rift, Berjaya Dragons versus Liup, Sea Serpent versus Killer Gaming. A lot of Sea favored teams. And the first game is already underway. Despite the fact I have a lot more, I want to chat with our beautiful, handsome casters today, Xcontrol and D2. But I guess we're going to quickly jump into the first game band pick. We'll save the discussion until the game ends. So go ahead, take it away, guys.
Yeah, we tried to make them wait, but they couldn't hold it in any longer. They had to get going real quick. I am D2, by the way. I don't know if I was introduced. I'm with Xcontrol. How are you doing?
I'm good, mate. I'm on about 3 hours sleep because my child decided he didn't want to go to sleep last night. So if I'm the grumpiest caster in the world, I apologize. But we've got some good Wild Rift going, so we'll be good. Absolutely.
And I'm looking forward to hearing your child wailing into the ether, as it were.
I really hope he does not. That would be fantastic. Thanks, Rupert.
Oh my goodness. Well, we had the bands going into this draft were Lee Sin, Oriana Gragas, and Wukong. And as the audience can see on the screen, we have our full draft ready for us. And TJ asked me about the draft multiple times yesterday after it was already done, and it was just a wave of information. So I'm going to do the same thing to you. I'm going to pass it on. What do you think about the entire draft?
The entire draft. Well, I'm very, very surprised that Aether Rift, because we're watching Aether Rift's point of view, and I'm going to butcher this name, but Chakaimuk.
Yeah, I go with
Chakaimuk. They were.
Yeah,
we're just going to go with Chakaimuk, I think. They didn't pick Evelyn first, which is really interesting. I've always considered Evelyn a first pick ban in Wild Rift right now. There are ways you can counter Evelyn mid, but she is incredibly oppressive, and it also derails a lot of your game plans if you sort of don't end up banning Evelyn mid. So I'm a little bit concerned for Chakaimuk in that sense because they don't have the Evelyn. Aurelion Sol has got good wave shove, but not a good level 1 wave shove. Evelyn will outshove Aurelion Sol at level 1, and so they're gonna have to play a very careful game. Looks like they're actually rotating their support to mid to counteract this. This is one thing that you can do with Evelyn mid. You just kind of bring your support level 1, and you can already see that's putting a bit of a spanner in the works here for Aether Rift.
Yeah, exactly. Shoutouts to our Kaisa for allowing us to see that. We are obviously on the Chakaimuk POV, as you can see in the bottom left of our screen, to be easier for our viewers to see that out. And we do actually, okay, there was actually a kill onto the Aurelion Sol here. So First Blood does go over to the Ether Rift. I want to talk about, for a little bit here, the switch up in the lanes here, as we have the Camille up top in the, or excuse me, Camille's in a normal lane, but we have Kaisa and potentially the support as well, joining her in this Baron lane, and then we have a 2v1 on the bottom in the Dragon lane.
Yeah, this is actually something that used to be incredibly common in League of Legends, but they actually patched it so that the equivalent of the Baron lane turret had extra resistances at the start of the game, meaning that you couldn't just make a lane swap happen because essentially everyone would do it all the time. In Wild Rift, there are no penalties for switching your bot lane up to the Baron lane. It looks like, though, they had enough of that, and they actually just want to go back down towards the Dragon lane, which is really interesting. My guess is that if they're not able to get a significant advantage by making the switch happen up to the Baron lane, then they want to make that switch happen because obviously you've got a Shyvana. You want to keep your bot lane on the side of the map where the Shyvana is able to get to that Dragon and at least contest it for the first Dragon of the game. Looks like they went for a tower dive, though, and actually got the kill, though, D2.
Yeah, I mean, we're unfortunately just looking at little dots on the mini map here, but seems like it's a 2-4-2 over on that top side lane, the Dragon lane, as it were. Still going on, actually. And thanks again for this, Camille, for giving us the POV at the last second there, Aurelion Sol being the last to go down. And we have a 4v2 in kills overall and a 3v2 in that fight.
Yeah, it was actually crazy. They went for a tower dive because they made a late transition swap. I never understand what goes through teams' minds when they decide to initiate a lane swap, but then only to switch back just like a few seconds later. Because the only thing that you get by switching back is a loss in experience in gold to the enemy bot lane. And again, the only reason that I could think that would happen is because you have a Shyvana and you want your strong duo lane that needs to be there for a neutral objective take. You want them to be on the side of the map that the Dragon is on because Shyvana needs to take that first Dragon, or ideally any dragons. So that's the only reason I could think that they made that happen. But they did initiate the lane swap and swap back. So that's interesting to me.
I have a much simpler explanation, I think. I think they thought that Ether Rift was going to switch, and so they kind of just predicted that they would, and then they just went back like, oh, okay, never mind. So yeah, I think they just switched back and they realized that didn't happen. So I don't know. We'll see. Well, while we were talking, it looks like Aurelion Sol goes down once again, and that means it's a 5v2 for Ether Rift right now, looking very good for our Philippine team.
Yeah, and also when you've got an Evelyn mid and you're able to shut down an Aurelion Sol, like Aurelion Sol is a pick that actually has, like, beyond like the early levels, actually has a good kind of like, I guess, matchup into Evelyn, because you're able to make roams happen at a similar speed. Like you're able to use your, I don't even know what the skill's called, but your third ability, where you essentially like run across the map. You're able to follow Evelyn at a relatively quick pace, which is good because Evelyn's main strength is that she can roam from mid lane, especially post level 5, and just get around vision and go and impact the lanes as much as possible. So Aurelion Sol, as soon as he realizes that something's missing or he sees an Evelyn appear on the map, he can instantly reply. But the problem is when you fall this far behind, you're not going to have the same impact that the Evelyn has, which is going to be an issue.
Yeah, you mentioned the fact that they tried to kind of counteract the the strength of the Evelyn early game by having the support rotate over, but looks like that just hasn't worked for them, and the Evelyn's kind of running rampant at the moment as we do have a fight gearing up here around this Drake. It looks like members of Ether Rift are coming in. Ult comes out from the Brawl, but he's going to be super low on health. The ult comes out from the Misfortune as well, and just so much damage coming onto the members of Chikaimuk here. Everyone falling down. Only Evelyn has died for Ether Rift. Looks like it's going to be wait, I'm actually confused. Okay, it was a 4-4-1 in the end there in favor of Ether Rift. So yet another dominating team fight.
Yeah, that was an interesting play. Like, obviously with Shyvana, like, you gain bonuses by taking dragons. So when you have a Shyvana on your team, you want to be able to take a dragon. She takes them really quickly. You just jump in, do the dragon, and try and get out as quickly as possible. But they didn't have the vision control in the enemy jungle to say that was a safe play to make. Like, they didn't have any vision control in the blue side jungle. They had no idea where the majority of the Aether Rift members were. And you're playing into a team that already has taken massive advantages versus you in sort of across the map. Like, they've already beaten you in skirmishes. They've already got a very fed Evelyn. They've already got a bot lane that has managed to dive yours and put your Kai'Sa behind. It was essentially a kind of a risky play. I guess they were hoping to sneak it because they saw some back timers and they were like, oh, well, maybe these guys are back. They're not going to get back in time. But you know, you'd be surprised how easy it is to move across the map in Wild Rift early on. It's such a small map compared to PC. And so even if someone backs, they're going to be able to respond to an objective relatively quickly. And that's what happened there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that we saw this with the team yesterday too. The more experienced team, or just the teams that, you know, fared better, were the ones who always had vision, always were, you know, kind of maybe poking at the dragon, but only doing it when it was safe, and usually kind of baiting it to the other team in a sense, right? When the other team was taking it unsafely, they would come in and try to punish that. And certainly there wasn't enough there to kind of sneak it. Perhaps they could have brought all 5, for something like that, but looks like there's going to be a dive onto this turret at the moment, and Akali is not long for this world. Ult coming out from the Camille to secure that kill, and it looks like Ether Rift is just leaning on Chikaimuk, trying to further their advantage here.
Yeah, and I think the 4v1 tower dive versus Akali, easy to pull off as well. You know, Akali's very slippery, but versus a Camille ultimate, she's confined to a certain area. So you just throw the ultimate on Akali, she can't escape, easy enough to get the kill on the tower dive. And that's allowed them to set up for the objective. This is very classic play from Aether Rift. You group up, you tower dive with the advantage that you've got, you're able to roam as a death squad. And then once you get that advantage on whichever side of the map that you go for the tower dive for, you take that neutral objective. So yeah, that was just an easy textbook play there for Aether Rift, and they're going to come away with the Rift Herald 2, which is going to allow them to, again, just probably drop that mid. I mean, that's like the best scenario, I would say. Dropping Rift Herald mid always works out the best, in my opinion, because getting that mid lane tier 1 is like the ultimate goal in the early game. It allows you to expand into the enemy jungle much more safely. So that's what I would be hoping Aether Rift aim for. But again, it can also be used as this distraction for the next dragon. Like, you could drop it in the Baron lane and create some pressure there, which creates a push on one side of the map that's furthest away from the dragons. So they've got options to sort of play with when it comes to using that Rift Herald.
Absolutely. Like you mentioned, they can do pretty much whatever they want with it. I kind of agree with you that dropping it mid would be very nice, not just because it's so nice to be able to control your enemy's jungle, but also because it's so easy for everyone to just rotate over, kill a tower, and then you're not really behind. You don't fall behind in your own lane per se. So everything usually ends up working out hunky-dory in that situation. They do drop it bot. We'll see what their aims are at the moment. Kind of really whatever they do, as long as they don't make any huge mistakes. It seems like they're fully in control of this game at the moment.
Yeah. Sorry, my son started like screaming at me through the door, so I quickly bounced over to just go and see if I could keep him calm while I'm casting. Yeah, dropping it in that lane is the most sensible in my opinion. I think because it creates the pressure away from the dragon, which you want to set up for. Obviously, dropping mid would be great if you had the opportunity, but I guess they just didn't feel confident enough to push onto that tower. But this now means that Akali has got to respond to the Rift Herald, and with dragon spawning in 3 seconds, it should be a good way to deny that second dragon from Shyvana.
Yeah, absolutely. Looks like we have a team fight brewing at the moment here. Aurelion Sol goes down without even any sort of resistance at all. Hextech comes out onto the Kai'Sa as well. She goes down fairly quickly. Another kill is in the books as well, and that is a 4-4-0. Let's see if anything can happen from this. Akali actually does get a kill onto the Camille. Not sure she can get any more. Oh, from the back comes the Misfortune. Sneaky play. Uses the GA, so she's going to be perfectly fine. That is an ace in return for only 1 kill on the other side.
Yeah, that seemed like a. So I was listening to you as I was trying to get Rupert sorted out. It was a pretty easy setup here. Again, Akali not being part of the fight. You've got great engage coming through from the Camille. Also with the Alistair, you have that ability to make the headbutt pulve combos happen. Yes, and okay, Akali got a kill back. Very good, but again, as you said, complete trade ace. They're going to be able to get that dragon, deny another dragon from Shyvana. And one of the things that really sucks as a Shyvana player, if you're running with a Shyvana on your team and you don't get hold of the dragons, you limit the power of that champion. Shyvana is so strong because she scales so incredibly well with these neutral objectives. She's got great objective control. And this time round, you're denying the dragons from Shyvana. Not a great thing for her. She's going to struggle to scale up well in the game if you don't manage to get her any of these neutral objectives.
If you have any issues with your side, you could just yell from across the room, just like D2, keep going, just keep going, keep talking. Like I'll be fine. But yeah, I mean, who's also fine is Ether Rift, as they are pushing hard onto the bottom tower as they take this fight up here near the Baron. So much damage going on. Hard to tell what's going on, actually. In comes Aurelion Sol. Actually, huge damage from him. And this is a 2-for-1 in favor of Chakaimuk for the time being. And they get even another kill onto the Olaf as well. Excuse me, the Olaf and then the Alistair. So that's a 3-for-1. They did have their bottom lane pushing, but not really any towers suffered there, so really good comeback started here from Chakaimuk.
Yeah, it's one of the problems dealing with Aurelion Sol around objectives. He can get these huge stuns off. He's got great objective control with his stars around him. So it's one of the major issues that you're going to face dealing with Aurelion Sol in that way. It's just it's very, very risky to go for overextending objective plays if Aurelion Sol's in the game, and they were able to just capitalize on that really well. I don't know how much it gets them back into the game here. I think they're gonna have to make a couple more of those kind of plays happen, but unfortunately, it's not the kind of I think advantage that you want to be giving away if you're Aether Rift versus better teams. They might be able to use this and exploit it and try and go for something, but we'll see. I still think the Aether Rift composition functions better in a team fight overall. I mean, you just have the Alistair Misfortune combo. Misfortune is so strong because bullet time deals a ridiculous amount of damage. You've got another engage.
Yeah, exactly. Camille jumps in over the wall, gets the head stick down, and down goes the Brawl. That is a huge deal. You might think it's not that big of a deal because he's a support, but he is the one big beefy guy in the front that's keeping the rest of the team from getting jumped upon. I think there might be a Baron situation right here. We switch over to the Aether. They're going to try to take this, going to sneak in as quickly as possible, but in comes the Aurelion Sol. Can he get anything done? No, he's going to get chased away by the Camille. I think I'm going to finish off, and they do manage to take down the Baron. That is absolutely huge. Good timing on the smite there, the jump onto the Kai'Sa. She has a G, but or excuse me, GA. My letters are backwards. She does manage to get away, but that is a 3-4-0 and the Baron. So this game seems like it's on its last legs.
Yeah, Baron should be able to easily push down, take at least 2 turrets. They may even be able to get onto that inhibitor turret as well. And as you said, getting Brawl might not seem like a big deal, but versus a Misfortune, that's a really big deal because in team fights, Brawl is one of the few counters to Misfortune. That Unbreakable makes the bullet time really difficult to get a good hit, and obviously he can soak the majority of his damage for the team. So when you lose the Brawl, you lose the main way of preventing damage. Looks like Camille did manage to sneak out there. I thought she was going to get
very cheeky back. Even looking at her,
very cheeky back. I was clenching just a little bit, seeing the back location. I mean, but they have the Baron now. So exactly. but the Baron here is going to be good for split pushing. Camille, one of the few champions in the game that is so incredibly good at split pushing. And she's going to be able to utilize this to just push down on that inhibitor turret. And actually, if they're sensible, they may even just keep Camille pushing in this side lane, because with the dragon spawning, it is in, I think it's the Cloud Dragon. With the dragon spawning, obviously Shyvana and team are going to want to do their best to try and contest that. But if Camille is just split pushing in the side lane, she can threaten that inhibitor turret and then either force Shyvana's team to deal with her, and she can escape relatively easily with hookshot as well. So either force Shyvana's team to deal with her or lose the dragon. And it just looks like they're going for a complete map split right now. Aurelion Sol going for the dive in.
Wow, they actually get them immediately. Down goes Akali like it was absolutely nothing. And now they're on the retreat. Looks like Aurelion Sol, having pops his taste, is going to drop right after that. Oh, the Olaf is on the hunt, trying to jump on their opponent here. The GA is popped for Kaisa. And can they get the kill? In comes another member to try to help things out. But, well, looks like actually the Shyvana, that was the one who jumped in, but doesn't matter because the Nexus goes down anyway. And that is game one going over to Aether Rift.
Yeah, and again, I just think this game was kind of like a little bit difficult for Checkermuk to get into from the very start. They initiated that lane swap, then they just swapped back. And like you said, it might have been the case that they were expecting a lane swap, and so therefore just swapped back afterwards. But the problem is, if you do that, you lose so much early experience and early gold. And you just saw that they were behind in levels and got tower dived. And it really felt like there was, even from the get-go, it was very difficult for Checkermuk to get into this game. And Aether Rift just had a control of it from the very start.
You know, having just come back from a tennis tournament, I kind of look at this game and, like, in terms of a tennis match, right? If this is a best of 5, like, it seems like, or best of 7 maybe even, it seems like Aether Rift won like 4-1 in this game. You know, they had like 4 really good situations, and then, you know, Chikaimuk had that one good team fight, and that was the 1 point that they scored. It was like basically 3-1 or 4-1 in favor of Aether Rift. Just basically across the game, they seem to have better engages, better situations, better objectives for them.
Yeah. So, what about you, Alexandro? Like, what do you think Chikamu need to do for next game, for game 2?
Honestly, I don't think their composition was bad. I think they definitely had the right idea, and I love the fact that they brought the Brawl up, but they went too hard for the Evelynn. Evelynn was able to escape, and then fortunately, going that hard, rather than just committing to pushing the level 1 wave, they went a little bit too hard, and they gave the Aurelion Sol over in the early game for first blood. If that hadn't happened, you might have seen Aurelion Sol being able to respond to her on the map a bit better. He might not have died to her solo later on into the game. I just think they made some interesting early game decisions, and I think that basically that personally kind of put the game on the back foot for me. That lane swap that they didn't commit to, like they just sent it back and then got tower dived. Like they made some interesting early game decisions that if they hadn't made them, they might have been a bit more even. And I think the problem is they just gave Aether Rift way too much in the early game, and then it was very difficult with the comp that you've got. You've got Kaisa scaling, Akali relatively scaling, Aurelion Sol scaling, and if you give an early game advantage to Misfortune and to Olaf and to Evelynn, you're just not coming back with that composition until you get enough gold. And obviously Aether Rift never let them get enough gold.
True.
It just seems like they didn't really play to the composition. Whereas on the Aether Rift side, they have the early game strength, but then they kind of build into that late game powerhouse in Misfortune, right? Where it didn't seem like Kaimuk was playing to what their composition allowed them to do. I mean, they go for the double dragon, which worked so well yesterday, but without the Lulu there to kind of complete that composition, it just didn't seem like it was going to work out all that well for them, and it kind of just fell apart at the seams.
I mean, I'm never a big fan of heroes like Shyvana, because it's just so weak. But then obviously with the presence of Lulu, it's a little bit different. And then also you can see this team fight. You have 2 people from Chikaimuk in mid, and 3 people doing the dragon. Where for Aether Rift, they have 3 people coming to contest. If these 2 were here a little bit earlier instead of kind of messing around in mid, I think this dragon fight will look a little bit different, because they will have the
maybe, but I think it was a stupid dragon fight to initiate anyway. I mean, you didn't have enough vision to know where the enemy team was. So I know they were zoning out Evelynn mid. I just don't. I never like going for a neutral objective unless you're absolutely sure that the enemy doesn't know you're doing it, or you've already taken some advantage from a team fight. You've already got like a man advantage in a team fight. I just think that they were asking for trouble with that team fight there. I don't know. Yeah,
and it was the exact opposite, right? It was Aether Rift that actually had the advantage. And I mentioned this yesterday because yesterday was such a clear example of the teams who are able to secure objectives by being, cognizant of how to zone out the other team, and the teams that just kind of trying to go for the objectives and really have no plan other than that, and just get jumped on, right? And this is one of the unfortunate cases of a bad way to take the objective, which is don't even try to zone out the other team. Do it when they know that you're doing it. And then, it just obviously ended up
you never want to take a 50-50 chance on objective as important as Dragon, right? You always want to make sure that this is something we can take for sure.
Well, it's not even 50-50. I mean, going into that, it was like 80-20 they're going to lose that fight, the way that they're positioning. So
yeah. Because there are a lot of conditions. We talk about how if the Dragon's on your side, they really need a lot of vision in their blue side jungle to make sure that, we know where they are, we know when they're coming. People need to zone properly. But obviously that wasn't happening. Like I said, we saw 2 people in mid. And this is a post-play analysis. Obviously, we're looking at the last game. So overall, I think this game, that Aether Rift just played their objective very well. Now, can they keep up in game 2? We shall find out. Once again, guys, welcome back to the 2021 Wild Rift Asia Brawl. This is exactly what you're watching. Group 1. Sorry, not Group 1. Week 1, Day 3. Okay, today we got a lot of exciting matches. You just saw Game 1 of Chakaimuk versus Aether Rift, the Asia powerhouse. On top of it, before we take a 2-minute break here, I do want to do a big shout out to our incredible sponsors, without whom this tournament would not be possible. So big shout out to the lovely Trovo.live. Trovo is hosting a variety of tournaments, events for League of Legends Wild Rift, with a bunch of prizes for you to claim, including 30,000 Wild Core giveaway throughout this tournament. Without Trovo's generous support, we just won't have this tournament. So go to Trovo, guys. If you're watching the stream right now, weekly Sunday matches and grand final for Wild Rift Asia Brawl will be streamed on Trovo exclusively. So make sure to use the link and head to Trovo right now. And that is starting off the playoff stage. The group stage will still cover through all the 4 platforms that we have. And on top of that, we do want to give a shout out to Wild Rift Competitive. Wild Rift Competitive is a central place for all things competitive. They host weekly tournaments, events for the community. They also provide an easy way to find scrimmage and recruit for your team. So if you're a team, if you're a player, if you're looking for any competitive news regarding Wild Rift, head to Wild Rift Competitive with their social links down below. And last but not least, make sure to check out our lovely casters, Xcondro as well as D2, with their social media links in the chat right now. Go ahead and follow them for future Wild Rift tournament casts or future just bunch of events that this talented caster will get themselves involved in. If you're watching the stream, just keep a note, all the matches for the Wild Rift Asia Brawl is now being archived on this YouTube channel, on AssassinDave YouTube channel. So go to playlist, find out Wild Rift Asia Brawl, and all the previous matches, all the previous streams will be archived in that playlist. So if anything you wanna look for analysis, if you want to just go back to refer to some games, watch some games, they're all in there. With that, we're gonna take a short 2-minute break, and we'll see you guys in a little bit. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, humans and pets, welcome back to the 2021 World Rift Asia Brawl. We're now in the group stage, Week 1, Day 3, and now we're watching the second game between Chakaimuk and Ether Rift. The first one does go to Ether Rift's favor. Can Chakaimuk turn the table around in Game 2 and take us to a 3-game series? We shall find out. Now, I want to welcome our two beautiful, talented casters, D2 as well as X-Condro. Take it away.
All right, we're getting actually right into game number 2 here. Our players completely jumped the gun for the second time in a row. Us casters are very, very mad at them, but regardless, we are into the game already. And just to name our players, we have Kennen, Kaisa, Aurelion Sol, Alistair, and Shyvana on one side with Misfortune, Braum, Oriana, Xinjiao, and Camille facing them.
So a similar composition coming out from, I think it's Chakaimuk. Yeah, Chakaimuk. So similar composition in the ring with what I know Dave called the double dragon composition. I
get the double dragon. I'm taking credit.
You're taking credit. You're taking credit. Okay, yeah. That's right. You can take that. I actually like Shyvana. I think she's a really strong jungler right now. She's got great objective control, but you need to pair her with people that can help her take that first dragon in the game. You know, you need to pair her with people that can kind of help make that happen. They looks like they went for a red side invade here, and they're actually going to even continue to pressure her out on her blue buff. This is absolute devastation from Aether Rift.
Yeah, they're really putting the pressure on, and you can see the work that Camille is doing, using her ability to hop over hindrances and get over that quickly. Just basically pre-planned here. And we have just a message to producer Dave here. It's a very, very blurry stream, so it's kind of hard to tell what is going on. But it looks like Xinjiao was kind of in the area as well, got extremely low. Now a full-on team fight is starting up here. Kennen does go down. They're going to turn their attention to another blurry member. Looks like Shyvana went down as well. And they're finally going to be able to take this blue buff. And that is a 2-0 in favor of Ether Rift already.
I mean, they just double buffed a Shyvana. One of the strengths that Shyvana has is she's incredibly quick at clearing the jungle. Like, she's got a very, very quick jungle clear compared to most other junglers, so she's able to just cycle through the camps, get her level 5 as quickly as possible. But if you can do this to her, you're going to put her massively behind. And it might even be the case that by the time the first dragon pops up, she'll be so far behind Xin Zhao that she might not even be able to compete for it. So Aether Rift, utilizing early vision control in the blue side jungle and making a very strong early invade on the red side jungle here, have massively put Shyvana behind in this situation as well. Aether Rift looking incredible. Oh, they're going to just tower dive Aurelion Sol.
That is just me.
Honestly,
stop
no
it, Ether
prisoners.
Rift. Goodness.
I know, no prisoners. Bloody hell.
Oh my goodness, they're not letting them get away with anything. I really like it though, because I feel like at the Ether Rift, I mean, I feel like they're practicing right now, right? Yeah, they're testing their limits to see what they can get away with. Because when they start going against super strong teams, particularly in this tournament, they're gonna have to make these kinds of plays where you just got to take risks and hope it pays off. And they feel very, very confident, obviously, in their abilities to beat Chakaimuk and kind of just taking these extra risks just to see what they can get away with.
Yeah, I'm wondering where Chakaimuk go from here, because one of the things that their composition plays to is they've got an incredibly strong teamfight composition. A great AoE teamfight composition as well. You have the Aurelion Sol with the Kennen combo, like Kennen ults, Aurelion Sol gets a huge amount of damage off, can potentially like combo with the stun. Kaisa's got a lot of damage in the area as well as Shyvana being strong in that regards. I know there's a bit of engage going down here at the bot lane, but I don't think it's going to amount to a huge much. Or at least it shouldn't have done if Alistair had turned around, but it doesn't matter. It looks like they're going to get an engage coming back from Xin Zhao here, and this should be a cleanup here for Aether Rift.
Yeah, they do get 2 return kills in that situation. A little bit of an overextension. In comes the Hextech as well from the Camille. And the Kaisa actually seems like she might be able to get away. And Shyvana has to even pop her ultimate just to escape from that situation. So things go from bad to worse. Seems like, it's a decent engage coming out from the Chakaimuk side, but unfortunately turns out extremely bad for them. And what is Aurelion Sol doing, trying desperately to hold onto that tower? He should have known it's going to go down anyway, and they lose yet another member. I believe this is 6-1. Apologies, guys. Excalibur and I are looking at a screen that's very, very blurry. Can you?
Oh, Dave is back. There we go. Dave is back, and we're going to see if that helps refreshing the stream and see if we can. Looks a little bit better. Thank you, producer. Oh, it's gone back, but it's fine. It's fine. We'll do our best. We're experienced Wild Rift commentators. We can kind of see what's going on the map. It looks like Dragon has been started, or it might be Rift Herald. I can't see because of the symbols. Maybe it's Rift Herald here. Yeah, it looks Dragon. They took Dragon, so that denies that first Dragon from Shyvana. And they're actually even going to go for Kennen, catches them out here.
Yeah, Kennen jumps in, gets a huge ult off, bunch of damage coming out. It seems like the side of Aether Rift is getting pushed back, but they're going to try to hold strong and get some return kills in the meantime. They're pushing into Chikaimuk territory. Looks like 3 members of Chikaimuk have already gone down. They're going to be pushing on to the Kaisa as well. Hexet comes out, finishes off the kill, and that in the end is a 4-4-1 in favor of Aether Rift.
Yeah, and I talked a little bit about the team fight being strong from Chikaimuk. Well, the team fight isn't bad either from Aether Rift. You have the Xin Zhao Orianna combo. Xin Zhao dives in. You have the ability to just shockwave on command wherever he decides to jump into the team fight. And obviously you layer that with the Misfortune. One of the combos that we saw on the first day was what we like to call the Death Bowl composition, which is basically Jarvan with Orianna and Misfortune. But Xin Zhao can set that shockwave bullet time combination up really well in his own right too. Plus Xin Zhao, very, very strong early jungler. You don't see much of him since he got nerfed really from the outset of the beta. I think Xin Zhao was one of the first nerfs that came through in Wild Rift since release. So you haven't really seen much of him since then, but he is still a strong early jungler. He still has the ability to skirmish relatively easily and can still set up team fights really nicely. He's got a very consistent engage. So comparing that with the likes of an Orianna who can set up team fights in her own right, and that bullet time being layered over by Misfortune, you've got a very oppressive and very good zone control fight. We have something going on in the mid lane though. It looks like Aurelion Sol's already gone down.
Yeah, earlier it looks like Kennen had already gone down, even though Camille was kind of doing her own thing in that lane. They took 2 more down. Can't really tell who that was. They're jumping into the tower to get 1 more. Shyvana goes down there. And this is just turning into an absolute disaster. Orianna gets yet another kill. Looks like Kennen revived and came back and just immediately just inted into the opponent. So things looking pretty terrible for Chikaimuk here as Aether just steps on the gas and starts putting this game away.
Yeah, they're going to take Rift Herald here. They're going to then also just deny more buffs from the Shyvana. Just looking like a good early game, honestly. And again, Chikaimuk just not able to keep pace with the kind of the aggression of Aether Rift. Aether Rift just like constantly in the enemy's face. They've really put the foot on from the very, very start. And I just don't see a way that Chikaimuk can come back in, because one of the things that we talked about was the scaling aspects of these two teams previously. When you've got a Kai'Sa and a Aurelion Sol, these are both scaling champions. It's just more people are dead here. I think it was Kai'Sa that went down. I can't quite tell, but I definitely know that Aurelion Sol is going to drop under his own tower here as well. But one of the things that you have to, there's just some sort of crazy team fight going on right now, and it definitely looks like Aether Rift's winning it. I don't envy you, D2, because I haven't got a clue who's getting engaged on. I think that might have been Alistair that died.
All I know is that Camille is on a rampage. She's just running around, galloping around the map, and just whenever she sees a champion, she's like, "Yeah, you're dead. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna, gallantly gallop all over to you and kill you, and there's nothing you can do about it." They're actually even pushing onto this inhibitor turret. You know what's kind of funny? Okay, I'll hold that thought. more engaging, more blood is required for Camille here. She requires it as they get in and get 1 more kill before they decide to back up a little bit. But what I'll say, guys, I was watching your video that went over the tournament that we had in New Year's, and then there was one point where you thought they were taking the Baron, but it was actually just a Rift Herald. That same thing happened to me this game, where like wait a second, it's still Rift Herald. It just feels like so much has happened in this game.
It just feels like the game should be that much later because it has been so dominant from Aether Rift, and I definitely felt the same way. And I've also because I'm just so used to like I just assumed that they because they've been so dominant and where they were on the map, I was like, this has got to be like Baron already, right? But no, the Aether Rift very, very good at pushing advantages before like even the Rift Herald has spawned, and that's one of the problems that I think the Chikaimuk composition has. And I think it's actually one of the things that I think is difficult to make work in Wild Rift in general, is that your gold income is much higher in Wild Rift, so you can play later game scaling champions relatively easily because you're going to hit the item spikes that you need within a certain time frame. But it is such an early game, like focused game, right? Like you need to have the early game in Wild Rift, and especially versus a team like Aether Rift, who, as you can see, will just run away with things if they're given the early game. You can't afford to pick full scaling versus them. Like Kai'Sa and Aurelion Sol, even though Kennen does have some early game, I just don't think that you can pick full scaling versus Aether Rift and get away with it because they will just punish you so hard.
I'm just having such a good time watching this. Just it's like this Minecraft stream because
I know,
just see Camille running around, and then everything she gets near you see this like red bar just deplete. I'm like, okay, she just killed someone else, or helped kill someone else. It's kind of hilarious. But what was I gonna say? I was gonna. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead. I just completely lost my train of thought. But this is
no. Do you know what? It's fine. I'm also getting slightly distracted by Minecraft Wild Rift right now. But yeah, no. I think the problem is that, and I think one of the problems that you're seeing versus Aether Rift is you can't afford to take things that take a little bit of time to come online because the Aether Rift go hard from the very get-go. Like they go in from level 1, and you can't afford to take things like Kaiser and Aurelian Soul that need items to be good.
Yeah, that was what I was going to talk about, because it just seems like by picking up a Shyvana, you're really relying on that early engage advantage in order to kind of push it right and snowball the game. And it seems like, because they can't really fight properly at all, they just given all the scaling to their opponent, and even just the misfortune just immediately just popped off. But again, we're seeing Camille just engage along with the rest of their team. Already 3 have gone. There's a 4th and the 5th, and that is a complete ace for literally 0 in return, and that just has to be game.
Yeah, it's going to be close to game, if not game, at this point in time. I think when you pick a Shyvana, you have to pick it with a strong bot lane, because you especially on the dragon side of the map, you want to be contesting that first dragon relatively easily, and that's the problem that you had here. Like you just didn't have a strong bot lane, like not a strong enough bot lane versus a Misfortune. Misfortune is just so incredibly good. They're going to take the game here. D2 easy 2-0 for Aether Rift. Like that was a speed run. That was a Wild Rift best of 3 speed run right here from Aether Rift.
True.
Seriously, at the first game, we were saying like, there's not really much to talk about here. Either have just kind of walked all over them, and then Ether said, "Hold my beer! I'm gonna make this even faster, even more dominant," and just stomped all over Chikaimuk here.
That was probably the shortest best out of 3 series we had for the group stage so far, right? It's just boom,
yeah,
over.
I think we had an extremely one-sided series yesterday with Sengoku. But Sengoku were completely, they were super passive with their lead. They were just making sure to, cross their T's, out their I's, make sure to get every single objective, and then they finished the game. But this game was just like, it was like a semi truck just, running over like a baby carriage or something.
It does feel really fast. It just feels like the game just ended. Like, we haven't even get to watch much games, and then boom, over.
I think Camille was absolutely huge there. She was just roaming. I mean, just from the beginning of the game, jumping in from a ridiculous distance in order to deny the buff from Shyvana. Yeah, and then from there, just galloping all over the map, just everywhere. And she was basically like, playing 6v5 the entire time, because honestly, Camille was all over the place.
Yeah, and also, if you look at Aether Rift, they played so aggressive. Like, they invaded blue, and this Xin Zhao was taking the small cam after red. And then Xin Zhao came from the middle 2 towers, took a beating from Aurelian Soul, but then still, they just, even look at Braum and then Misfortune, right? They're able to shove wave and rotate all the way. Braum rotate all the way to the blue buff. They want to make sure this Shyvana doesn't have a good time at all. Look at that. It's just, cannon, bye-bye.
Yeah. It feels like the game ended here. It feels like the game ended here because they got 2 kills, they got all the buffs, and Shyvana just cannot survive without her early farm.
I mean, if you look at Shyvana, at this point he's like, I think he paused here. Let's see, just like a little second, he paused right here. So Xin Zhao is already close to level 4. Shyvana is still sitting at level 1 right here. It's 0-1. He hasn't started a single buff, right? He was trying to do something. It was just a little bit too hard.
I mean, not even 4-digit gold yet.
Yeah, not even 4-digit gold.
Like, oh goodness.
This is a minute and a half. The jungle is already like 1,000 gold lead, That's incredible.
Even though it's an only, quote unquote, only like 1,000 and change gold difference, anytime you have double the gold of your opponent, it's ridiculously powerful. Because even though it's 1,000 gold, it's 1,000 gold this early into the game. So you have, potentially an entire, tier 2 item over your opponents. It's absolutely ridiculous. Not to mention the level lead as well.
Yeah. I mean, 1,000 gold at this point is, at this early, just like you said, He's tier 2. It's a big component of the item. You know, he's at 2100 gold. If he gets another 1000 gold, that's Youmu's, right? For Xin Zhao. That's like, and look at this tower dive. It's just...
Yeah, that is just disgusting.
Yeah. You can't even say that Chakamu played bad because they were not out of position. They were just trying to play their game. But Ether Rift's like, no, this is our game. Sorry.
It's kind of funny because... Oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, I was going to say it's very difficult to criticize Chakaimuk because, like, compositionally, they weren't able to fight that early on in the game. Like, they just didn't have a composition that was supposed to function at level 1, basically, whereas you're going up against a team that has a very strong level 1. Like, Braum is one of the strongest level 1 supports in the game because he can both apply a slow, but then also stack up a stun. Like, he's one of the strongest level 1 supports in the game. Misfortune is an incredibly overpowered level 1 AD carry as well. You know, she's got a lot of damage for a level 1 AD carry. Xin Zhao, great too, depending on which skill you take. You've got a stun from Camille if you want to. Level 2 Camille, Camille's level 2 all in is insane. Like, this is like a team that was designed to fight this early on in the game, and they bloody did, and it was very, very difficult to come back from.
That's actually very interesting. It seems like Ether Rift caught onto that super quickly, realizing how strong they were at level 1. Because, and you know, this team fight obviously was pretty, you know, optimistic here for Chakaimuk, and they get chased down in the end. But you know, looking at their composition, they aren't terribly strong in the early game in general, particularly when they pick up their ultimates at level 5. But like you guys are mentioning, the level 1 weakness here from Chakaimuk was so evident when you look at it in hindsight. And obviously, huge credit to Ether Rift for recognizing that immediately upon the draft ending, and then just going hyper aggressive there.
That's why
I love.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, go Dave. No, go Dave. Go Dave.
No, I said that's why basically you want to pick. You want to balance your composition to make sure you have insurance for late game. But most importantly, with the current available hero pool, champion pools that we have in Brawl Rift, you really have to prioritize the early game snowball, because it's all about those early game team fights. At least from what we see from all the entire Brawl Rift Asia Brawl, the last invitational that we had, it's always whoever controlled the first 6 minutes with the Dragon, with the Rift Herald, usually turned out to end up snowballing the entire game.
Yeah, and I actually love teams that pick Braum and invade level 1, because I don't think there are many other level 1 supports that can actually contest with Braum at that point. Like, it was a nice setup from Kennen here, but he's just too far behind. Just doesn't have the damage at this point, and they lost the game when they lost that double buff for Shyvana. You lose that double buff, you get put behind, as you correctly mentioned, Dave, so far behind in experience, you can't contest for first dragon. And if you can't contest for first dragon, there's no point picking Shyvana in the first place.
Exactly.
There are literally just better junglers. The thing that makes Shyvana good is if you are confident in your dragon lane, especially, that you can then just go and contest the first dragon in the game and take over. But if you can't contest first dragon in the game, Shyvana feels kind of pointless.
Yeah. If you look at the item differences, right, compared to the two jungles, I mean, Shyvana's still sitting on 3,000 gold. He's not even finishing the first item, right? Obviously, Shyvana, from the component, you look like she want to get the Trinity Force. But that's the most expensive item at 3,700 gold. You're not going to get that, you know, but look at Xin Zhao. Youmu's
double the gold, still double gold.
Yeah, level 3
What is this? 5 minutes in the game. 5 minutes in the game, still double gold. That's insane.
Yeah, it's just.
Oh my goodness.
This get to a point where it's not what you can do to come back in the game. It's what the enemy team is gonna do to give you a chance, right? And in this case, you're playing against Ether Rift, and we know this team is known to be playing one of the most aggressive team in the game. Once they have a little bit of lead, they're never gonna let it go. They're gonna invade. And then this is a team that in the last tournament, they did the same thing. They invade one buff, and they don't just end there. They go from the middle of the two towers, and they go to the other side and invade right away. Remember that one time they had like 2 jungles, D2? Yeah, they started with 2 junglers, 2 smite, and they just go invade. Like the 2 smite.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Right.
they just go invade your red and they invade your blue. They know you're weak early game. Okay, let's go 2 smite. Let's get 1 person each lane, you know, and then the 2 will invade your jungle.
I think that was a little bit overboard, but one last thing I'll say about this game, because you know there's not a whole lot to say about the game this one-sided, is apart from getting just punked in the early game, there was absolutely no way for Chakaimuk, to get back into the game, because they had no long-range poke champions to be able to just ward off minion waves, right? To poke from a distance, make it so like really hard to take turrets. I don't think that would have made much of a difference because of how aggressive Aetherrift was. But if there was any chance for them to come back, they needed some long range poke heroes in order to just fend them off and and wave clear, and they didn't even have that. So when the early game that went that far in Aetherrift's favor, it's kind of anticlimactic to talk about in the start of the game, but it was just over right away, unfortunately for them.
So I guess overall, big congratulations to Aetherrift for taking what a dominating series for them to show that this is gonna be the group that we are going to lead the way to show you how it's done. Remember, this is a team that has the first challenger players that we had in the last tournament, and I can't wait for more from Aetherrift, because last time they lost to 16-bit gear, and the 16-bit gear yesterday got defeated by Team GG. So we know this time the tournament is multiple times as more complicated and competitive compared to the last tournament. So how is Aetherrift gonna do this time? It's gonna be really something I look forward to.
Yeah, and actually going forward, we just did Group D. We're going to do Group B next, and then we're going to switch back to Group D at the end. But Aetherrift showing that they're one of the top teams in the Philippines, but one of their main rivals for that is coming up next. And I know that we have a lot of fans of this team in the chat because we were seeing them yesterday and the day before, and that is Liab. And looking at our notes here, I believe that Liab, it said, someone said they had like 4 challengers on their team or something like that.
Liab is definitely one of the most competitive teams in the Asia region. Actually, this team's also their manager is also really responsible and active young lady. Ever since the last tournament, I got reached out by Liab saying like, "Hey Dave, like what about the next tournament? Like what team can we screen? Blah blah blah." This is very very exciting. From when you look at an organization, when you have a leader that is really active, I expect the team to do the same. So I can't wait for next match. It's Berjaya Dragons versus Liab Esports. If you're a fan of either team, this is your time to get your popcorns out, to get a soda out, share the stream, like, subscribe, turn the bell on with your friends, and to get them ready for the next game, because we're just getting started here. And then anything you guys want to say about the next match?
Honestly, I just heard that Liab, there's obviously a lot of fans for them, and they have 4 challengers. So I'm expecting big things from them, especially because they're in the same group as the dominant Sengoku Gaming from yesterday.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that one. Let's see if Berjaya can maybe surprise and take out one of our fan favorites. We'll have to find out.
We'll have to find out. Now, before we get into a short break right here, ladies and gentlemen, this entire tournament is sponsored by Trovo.live. Trovo.live is hosting a variety of tournament events for League of Legends Wild Rift, including the Wild Rift Asia Brawl, with a bunch of prizes for you to claim, including 30,000 Wild Core giveaway throughout this entire tournament. Without their support, this tournament simply would not be possible. So if you're watching the stream right now, weekly Sunday matches and grand final for Wild Rift Asia Brawl will be streamed on Trovo exclusively. So make sure to use the link to head to Trovo.live. Right away. And then, big shout out to our lovely Wild Rift Competitive. Wild Rift Competitive is a central place for all things competitive. They host weekly tournaments for events for the community. If you want to look for anything competitive, go to Wild Rift Competitive with the social link in the description down below. And make sure to follow our handsome, talented casters, D2 as well as Alexandro, with the link in the chat right now. Their Twitter links over there, so make sure to use the link to go follow them as well. Last but not the least, a big announcement. Entire tournament matches are now archived on the AssassinDave YouTube channel. Go to the Wild Rift Asia Brawl playlist. All the individual matches are being clipped and then archived over there, and all the live streams are being saved over there, so you guys can watch all the matches. Look for anything that you want regarding Wild Rift Asia Brawl. With that, guys, we're gonna go ahead and take a short break, getting the next match ready. Liab is coming up next, so see you guys in a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, humans and pets alike, welcome. I was about to say to the coolest, the greatest, the baddest channel, but then that's my live stream. Welcome to the 2021 League of Legends Asia Wall Rift Asia Brawl, brought to you by Trovo.live. That's right, we're in a group stage, Day 3, Match 2. This is Liyup versus Berjaya Dragons. Not a singular dragon, but multiple dragons. It's very, very exciting. Against Liyup, from what we heard, they have multiple challengers from Season 0. Coming to this tournament, the most competitive tournament yet. I cannot wait to see what they have in store for us, what they hold in store for us. I know you guys cannot wait either. We have a bunch of Liyup fans in the chat. Which of these two teams do you support? Right, leave a comment in the chat right now. Let us hear your voice, even though it's COVID and we're all staying home. But let us hear your voice online. That is correct. Now, while you're doing that, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn that bell on to all notification bells. Do not hesitate. We want to do a big shout out to the sponsor of the tournament, Trovo.live, without whom this tournament would not be possible. Trovo is hosting a variety of tournaments, events for League of Legends Wall Rift, with a bunch of prizes for you to claim, including 30,000 Wall Core giveaway throughout this tournament, starting the playoff stage in 2 weeks. Without Trovo's generous support, this tournament would not be possible. So if you're watching the stream right now, weekly Sunday matches and grand final for Wall Rift Asia Brawl will be streamed on Trovo exclusively. So make sure to use the link and head to Trovo right now. On top of that, this tournament is hosted and organized by one and only Wall Rift Competitive. Wall Rift Competitive is a central place for all things competitive. They host weekly tournaments, events for the community. They also provide an easy way to find scrimmage and recruit for your team. Anything competitive you want to know about Wall Rift, go to Wall Rift Competitive with the link in description. And I want to introduce our lovely, talented, charming, attractive man of the hour, the casters. I'm looking for more descriptions.
Okay.
D2
whenever
and
you do
X-Condro, that's right. You can find their links, find their social media links in the chat right now. So make sure to go follow them right away. Do not hesitate. Do not be shy. You know, they might have families. They might be single. Doesn't matter. They're always ready to mingle. So with that, we're going to go to the first game band pick between Liyup and Berjaya Dragons. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to our beautiful, beautiful casters. Go ahead.
You know what, Dave? The urge to troll you when you're doing your intro is just so great. It's like, I don't know. It's for some reason that intro always gets me, and I just want to just like jump in like yay yay when you pause. But
you should do it next time.
Okay. Well, we have our draft well underway. For Liyup, the bans were Brawl and Evelyn. I think that X, you will be happy to hear that. And then from Berjaya Dragons, we had Lee Sin and Gragas. So pretty sensible bans, in my opinion. What do you say?
Yeah, no, I think they are pretty standard bans. If I was going to pick 4 bans for the current meta, I would definitely be picking things along the lines of Evelyn, Lee Sin, and Gragas. And then obviously the last one, Brawl, super strong level 1. And we've seen teams be really aggressive in the early game. Brawl is especially good at playing off level 1 aggression. So I think that they are pretty solid bans overall. And actually, we're sort of seeing the end of the draft phase here. And we're starting to see these compositions round out.
Yeah, and I'm really liking this Lulu pick. Lulu was pretty dominant yesterday, so them continuing to see her picked should be pretty powerful in this game indeed. Looking at that Lulu Wukong combination jumping in with the ultimate and providing the wild growth and just lots of big damage coming out. Feels good. Yeah, I think that's a really, really strong combo. The Lulu Wukong, very similar to the Lulu Shyvana. You've got a way of getting into the fight and then getting the huge explosion and health and the knock up on the enemy team. Combining that with the Aurelian Soul, great team fight presence as well. The one qualm that I do have is there's quite a lot of scaling again for Berjaya Dragons. So again, there may be early game discrepancies that you're not going to get a hold of here. You have a Camille that you've got to contend with. You've got a Misfortune who's incredibly strong in the early game too. However, with a Vi, you might be waiting until level 5 before you see any major action taking place because, Vi is one of those junglers that uses her ultimate mostly to get into the fight. And actually, I think both of these team fights look relatively strong. The one thing that I would say for Liyup is that they have a 1-3-1 here as well. They've got the ability to play Camille and Twisted Fate pushing down the side lanes.
So I think keep an eye on the tactics that are used this game, because we may see a move away from traditional team fights, especially for Liab, because if they get behind, their team doesn't really do that well in a team fight situation. They're more of an individual pick team, as well as like maybe pushing the side lanes and exploiting side lane pressure. So that's what I'll be looking for Liab.
Well, you talk about the potential early game pressure coming out from Berjaya. Oh.
We're just waiting for Dave. Dave's point of view has just gone down here, so we'll have to wait to see if it comes back relatively quickly.
Can the audience hear me is the question, hopefully.
We have a little bit of technical issues right here from the stream. Let's hope it get fixed right away. Drew and video call.
The joys of spectatorless Wild Rift.
Yes, it's we're having a little bit issues by watching the Liab's perspective, and then so far it's been pretty peaceful, thank God. But let me see.
All right. Well, I'm looking at their stream right now on my own side. Right now, I am at 1 minute 8 seconds looking at Liab's stream, checking out Gambit here along with Miggy on the Janna.
Could you link that to me in the chat? That would be fantastic if you could.
I think it actually is in the chat from.
Is it? Let me have a look.
Yeah, in the
other one.
Let me go ahead and do that. This is Liab's perspective. And by the way, you can go to Trovo and watch individual player perspective. They're all streaming on Trovo right now, live, as we're having some technical issues. And so sorry about the technical issues, because we are limited by the technology we have. The spectator mode is not available. So once again, sorry about that.
All right.
I am watching Liab's perspective, yeah.
All right,
152, 153, 154. That's where I'm at in the game.
Okay, I'm about 1 second ahead of you. So, well, I'll just try to tell the future then. In any case, hopefully the audience can hear us. We're taking a look at the stream. All right, awesome. So we're taking a look at the stream on our side, taking a look at Liab's point of view here. And we have obviously the Kaisa and the Lulu on the side of Berjaya going off against the Misfortune and the Janna. Looks like we already have a 2-kill lead here for Liab. So getting off that early advantage is pretty huge. Not quite sure who did fall, unfortunately. Obviously, you guys in the chat probably were able to pick that up. But this is going pretty standardly, if that's a word here, in the Dragon side lane, with both sides just kind of poking each other.
Yeah, I mean, this is a lane matchup that honestly you're not expecting a huge amount of action to happen. Like at the end of the day, it's Janna Misfortune. You've got a lot of damage output, but also versus a Lulu, you're never going to be able to get close enough to really punish that and push the advantage. It looks like there's the Twisted Fate roam to the top side of the map here onto the Akali. I actually really like Twisted Fate into Akali, because one of Akali's main functions in a team fight is that ability to hide in the shroud. But you know, if a Twisted Fate is switched on, just pop the ultimate. Akali gets revealed in her shroud, and she's easy to focus and easy to take down. So I actually quite like the Twisted Fate pick. We have a bit of an engage around the dragon here. It looks like Janna gets caught out slightly, but Gambit able to trade back nicely onto that Kaisa. And yeah, and I think we've already got a good start here for Liab. They're already 3-0 up, and if they can get their solo laners ahead, D2, what we talked about previously, is that they may be able to just completely avoid team fights regardless. They might be able to just go for side lane split push pressure, which would be like an interesting thing, because I haven't seen it done too much because in Wild Rift, because the games generally tend to be quite fight focused. Like they tend to be very team fight focused, very kind of like I would say like objective focused. Like, you know, you're expecting skirmishes all the time, but you know, there is that possibility to go for these kind of like split push win conditions. And a Twisted Fate Camille combo, you can split push in both the side lanes. We could do what we call a 1-3-1 composition. And I'd be really interested to see if Liab can pull that off.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, it's really tough to do that, especially in this sort of situation where kills are so important for that gold. So, you know, making sure that you get those kills while also avoiding those massive team fights. Looks like Misfortune's going to go back over to the fountain in order to pick up that Guardian's Angel, making it so much more difficult to take down. You were talking about the ability for the Twisted Fate to rotate over to the Akali and make sure to turn off that ability for her, you know, to get away. But there's also the Hextech, the ultimate coming out from Camille as well. So it feels like Akali is going to have a really hard time there.
Yeah, no, there are two champions that do well into Akali overall. Like Camille limits the mobility, and Twisted Fate gives the visibility. It looks like with this Guardian Angel pickup, it's a strong point for Misfortune to want to fight, and we're going to see them go for this dragon, actually completely uncontested as well. So brilliant start here for Liab, and it just feels like I actually respect the decision from Dragons to avoid contesting that first Drake, because again, you have that scaling, like you have the Kai'Sa, you have the Aurelion Sol. If you don't feel confident fighting at this point in the game, then there is no need for you to fight. Like, you don't have to. It looks like they killed Akali again. I feel bad. They are absolutely wailing on her, but looks like they might even be able to trade back here. They went for a big roam to the top side of the map.
Yeah, they were able to rotate and get 2 kills for it. Very nicely done by the Wukong. First, catching out the Camille and then being able to take out the Twisted Fate as well. So very nicely done. I believe Aurelion Sol was able to help out with that situation. Wow, I lost my train of thought again. Sorry, my brain is like turning off this, guys. I know, I bet you know how it feels, but
my brain is addled. I have about 3 hours sleep. But alas, we'll get there. I'm liking this though. I think it's a good response from Dragons. Like they rotated to protect their mid lane turret. Like the obvious thing to do when you see that Aurelion Sol roam top is to say, okay, well let's group, let's take mid lane turret, or at least get some plates off, make it easier to take later on. But they very quickly made that rotation in the bot lane to go for it, and I think they've done a good job of protecting those objectives on the map so far. So Dragons have responded to the early pressure from Liab, and actually has been pretty impressive. The only thing that I would say is that, you know, they are losing out on these neutral objectives, but this is a brilliant play from Dragons. They basically said, okay, we don't really care about Rift Herald, because the best thing that you can get from Rift Herald D2 is first tower of the game. Like, Rift Herald is designed to crack open towers, right? So the best thing that you can get is first tower of the game. They were like, okay, bottom side of the map, we're just going to go and take first tower of the game ourselves, and that kind of invalidates and nullifies the major point of getting the Rift Herald in general, because Rift Herald is designed to crack open that first tower and give you that gold injection. What I would say is that Liab also came back with a counter punch. This is going to be a really good game to break down and analyze. I think if Dave is going to allow me, I might actually choose this one to do on my channel. But it basically, you're seeing counter punch after counter punch in terms of map rotations, and they were like, okay, we're dropping Rift Herald mid, but we're also going to take the top lane tower, so we actually get 2 towers out of that Rift Herald take. So it's been really back and forth so far. I'd say that the advantage is ever so slightly lying in Liab's favor, but what I would also say is that you are coming up to 8 minutes into the game, and a Kai'Sa and Aurelion Sol composition is still active. They're still fighting. They're still on the same wavelength as this Misfortune comp. So they still have that really big late game team fight scaling that can potentially come online here. And it's not like the Aether Rift games where we saw a Kai'Sa Aurelion Sol composition get absolutely slapped into the ground within the first 2 minutes. This time, Liab are actually relatively even versus that type of composition. So we're going to now have to analyze, okay, do Liab want to even go for team fights, or are they going to do what you're seeing now? Because D2, we talked about it at the start of the game, the 1-3-1 has been activated. Twisted Fate in the top side of the map, Camille in the bot, your side lane split pushes are ready to go, and you're leaving Misfortune mid. She has her ultimate for wave clear if she needs it. This is what I think Liab are going to want to do to try and win the game, because it's going to be very difficult, I think, for Dragons to actually respond to this.
Yeah, we had a huge tit for tat, like you were mentioning earlier, just rotations galore, as you saw basically 2 minutes ago when Misfortune went top. Then, like you were mentioning earlier, we just had Berjaya Dragon just go straight for the tower rather than going for the secured route with the Rift Herald. And now we're kind of entering a different phase of the game, which you mentioned at the beginning of the game with that 1-3-1 split. And let's see how well Liab is able to manage this, because, again, like you mentioned, we have not really seen this before from teams.
It's just really good map play. Looks like they are, again, having a little team fight trade here.
Yeah, trying to get away is Kai'Sa. Looks like she's going to be able to do so. They pick up the kill onto Camille, and they might get out scot-free. As you can see on the mini-map there, the Wukong is able to slither away in the middle of the map. He's pretty high in health, so don't imagine he's going to be able to get caught here. Great rotations here from Berjaya Dragons, doing a great job. I was talking earlier about the top tower going down in favor of Liab, but during that time, the Twisted Fate also fell, and you can see the kill count has completely evened out here, 4-4. Berjaya Dragons have also taken the Mountain Dragon, and I think they're just straight up in the lead here.
I think they're definitely going to be at least threatening the lead at this point in time. They get the second dragon, so the neutral objective count is completely even once more. The problem that I think Liab are going to have is when you're trying to do this split push game plan. So when you're trying to do this 1-3-1, you need your Camille to be the one that's facing the Akali, because if you let Twisted Fate face the Akali, he's going to lose that 1v1 duel. Obviously, the best thing you can do is draw Aurelia and Sol away from the teamfight situations. Oh, Camille, not sure that's the play. Think she might get out here though.
Yeah, it looks like she's able to jump over that wall. Akali trying to deal her damage. Looks like going to be a re-engage coming from Liam. They're out for blood. They're tired of being pushed around these last few minutes here. Looks like an ability goes on to a clone. Unfortunately, they're going to go ahead and try to take down Akali and are successful in doing so. All 5 members down in this bottom lane as they're going to try to push with the help of this Rift Herald, finally unlocking that. Unfortunately, the first siege minion does go down, so they're going to get this tower, but not really sure how much else they're going to be able to get out of this.
Yeah, they just saw Aurelian Sol show himself in the top side of the map, so they were pretty confident pushing a little bit further in this bot lane. But again, the Rift Herald, the best you can hope from Rift Herald in most scenarios is a single tower. Unless you're really far ahead and you get a great team fight, you can drop it and push down 2 or potentially even 3 if you're super lucky. In most games, you're going to find that the Rift Herald gets you 1 tower. If the Rift Herald gets you a tower, takes it off the map, I would say that objective has become worth it overall. So yeah, I think that was perfectly fine for them to at least get 1 tower. They've now opened up the map. The question is, where do they go from here? Do they continue this split push pressure? Do they continue to try and play through the side lanes with their Twisted Fate in one and the Camille in the other? Or are they going to group up and try and play around more of a team fight, with this Misfortune, who is incredibly strong at this point in time? Are they going to start to threaten the Baron, which is obviously now the next objective that is really on the cards? There are lots of questions that need to be answered here for Liab. It looks like they're going to continue to just have the Camille do her side lane thing, and they're going to keep the Twisted Fate mid for the time being. Ooh, that was a little bit scary. Wukong tried to dive in there.
Yeah, the Flash having to be forced here out of Twisted Fate as well. You can tell exactly what you were saying is going on in this game, right? Because as you can see, the split is on here for Liab, whereas you can see the complete grouping of Virginia. So both sides obviously trying to get 2 completely different objectives completed here. In the objectives, not map objectives, 2 objectives and trying to
2 different game plans, right? The 2 different game plans, right? I think one of the things that was good for Twisted Fate there is that he's able to, if there is a 1v1 that breaks out between Camille and Akali, he's able to respond and activate himself much more quickly in that side lane than the Aurelian Sol is able to do so. So it's all about just finding these minute opportunities. And if you can get Camille sufficiently ahead of Akali, then you're never going to have to worry about that 1v1. Like, Camille's just going to win that as the game progresses, and will continue to win that for the rest of the game. And so that's one thing that you have to be aware of for Liab. Like Camille is the ultimate split push side lane. Like she scales up so well, and she's a 1v1 monster. If you get her sufficiently ahead of Akali will never be able to respond to her well enough. And though I've got to be a little careful as the next dragon's spawning in 30 seconds, and Camille almost got caught out by the Wukong there.
Yeah, obviously we're taking a look at the solo queue perspective of Gambit here. We don't have the spectator mode yet, so we're using that. So when you hear Excalibur or myself talking about something happening on the map, you don't see it on your screen, take a look at that mini map. This is actually good practice for you guys in the audience, making sure to always look at the mini map so you know what's going on. It looks like a attempted engage here on to our vibe, but she's able to get away scot-free, and the counter engage trying to be held onto this Aurelian Sol as well, just tit for tat going back and forth. Not a whole lot of damage on either side, but looks like Berjaya is going to go ahead, lick their wounds, go back to base, which allows for a semi-free take here of the Infernal Dragon for the Liab side. And as I say that, sorry to cut you off here, it looks like the action is continuing to go on. Nope, it looks like Virginia is going to back off. They're not going to take the Baron, and the action ends there.
That was actually really smart play from Liab. Basically, they zoned away. So they used the Twisted Fate in the mid lane to zone away the Aurelian Sol. They caught him out a couple of times with the gold card, made it difficult for him to get into the teamfight situation. They saw Akali show herself top. They were like, okay, free dragon, right? There's no way that Akali comes down to contest this dragon. She's going to be split pushing. And I think at that point, Bajaya Dragons had said, okay, we're going to give up this dragon, but we're going to threaten Baron. But they sent Twisted Fate bot to split push bot. They know that he can respond with his ultimate straight away. And Liab stayed in that area to contest the Baron, or at least threaten that they knew that it was going to happen. And there was nothing nothing else that the Bajaya Dragons could get from that situation. So they're just playing the map really well right now, Liab. They're trying to pick apart this game. They're trying to avoid the 5v5 team fights. You may notice that we have seen almost no 5v5 team fights this entire game, and that's because Liab doesn't want them to happen. The Liab do not want 5v5 team fights because they lose them. Although this might be, their hand might be forced as the Baron is being threatened, but they are so aware of like when they are in danger and when they're not. They are not putting themselves in precarious positions in these side lanes, and that's the best way to play the 1-3-1 game. They just push those waves and wait for an opportunity to push those waves, make sure they don't get caught out. It's really, really intelligent map play from Liab. It's not dominant like Aether Rift was in terms of like pure skirmish heavy like dominance, but it is really intelligent map play. And you can see now Rubik's on the Twisted Fate. He's hanging out in mid lane. Why is he hanging out in mid lane? If Camille gets caught in a 1v1, he ults over immediately, keeps the Akali in vision, and she dies. So just they're always aware of where they need to be and why, and they're just making sure that they're never letting Bajaya Dragons go for a pure 5v5 or get a Baron for free, and they're just continuing to try and exert that side lane pressure.
And you can see just the movement of Gambit here, the help that his teammates provide him in terms of that vision, right? I can tell people in the audience are probably thinking, wait, he just pushed all the way up to the level 2 turret. How did he not die? How did he not get jumped on? But, well, he knew exactly where all the members of the enemy team were because his team was so far forward on the map, just in the jungles and providing that vision. And that allows you to take so much more from your opponent than you normally are able to. And just completely controlling the game against Bajaya Dragons here.
The problems that I think Bajaya Dragons have is that the only way for them to engage a fight is through Wukong. Like the only person, or through like a big Aurelion Soul stun. So like they need Wukong to either dive in and just force something. But right now there is so much protection, especially in the mid lane, that you can see the power of having the mid lane tier 1 left alive at this stage in the game. Like you have to essentially tower dive if you want to force something. They're going to catch out Aurelion Soul here. Find a pick. Aurelion Soul on the side lane is such a weak, like he's not supposed to be a side laner D2. Like Aurelion Soul is a team fight champion. Like he's there to just be like a monster in a team fight situation. And now what they're going to do is they're going to keep Camille split pushing, and they're going to force Bajaya Dragons to respond. They say, okay, come and 3v4 us at Baron, or you lose your, or you're going to lose your side lane. And I think they're going to play it safe here. Yeah, they're going to play it safe here. They don't want to take the fight, but I think they just allowed Camille to get a side lane tower as well.
You can totally see the frustration coming up from Bajaya, though. It seems like hold that thought. Looks like they're potential engage here. But yeah, they tried to have Aurelion Soul match the Twisted Fate because he can use his third ability to just fly over the map. But as you mentioned, it turns out he's just not very good in that position, and he got immediately caught out here. It's just so amazing to see a game like this where a team is just exploiting the 1-3-1 so very well. And it was a little bit of growing pains in the beginning of the game where they had trouble executing this strategy, but as it's gained strength, as they've been able to kind of push this advantage, you can see how frustrating it must be for Bajaya Dragons.
Well, Bajaya Dragons have just said, screw it, we're going to go for the Elder Dragon. We're going to force a 5v5 team fight right now. So this is where we're going to see if Liab have gained a sufficient advantage, because they're going to have to fight Bajaya Dragons on their own territory.
Yeah, exactly. The dragon is at 1/3 health, and here comes Liab trying to make it happen. Big ult comes out from this misfortune, and massive damage onto this side of Bajaya Dragon. So many members extremely low, basically perma-stunned here onto the misfortune, and it looks like it's going terribly for Liab. And she does get it looks like it wasn't a kill. Actually, has to use her stasis just to stay alive for one more moment, but she does go down. Vi is trying to back here. She gets caught out. So too does Camille. Can she get out of here? Seems like it might be the case, but that's going to be a 3-for-1 in the end, and that's exactly why the Liab side was trying to avoid this fight for so long.
Oh, man! Stole it, T2! Oh my god!
You're actually ahead of me. Oh my god! Sorry, my mistake. Sorry, I did not see that. I didn't see that till 2 seconds later. I'm like, what? How did you know?
Oh my gosh! That's the worst case scenario for Bajaya Dragons. That is the worst case scenario.
Oh,
they get Baron, right? They're going to get Baron, but
actually, I think with Trovo, you can pause for a couple seconds, and it doesn't. You can come back to it.
I'll pause. I'll pause for 2 seconds just to bring it back.
You
tell me what. You tell me what time you're at right now. They just got the Baron.
Yeah, the enemy team, that being Berjaya, actually got the Baron, so that's very, very good for them. I'm at 19, 24, 25, 26, 27 on the game clock there, but looks like so the Baron was taken here by Berjaya. However, the they just completely fell apart after that. 4 members died, and it looks like Liab's going to be pushing on to this mid inhibitor turret. And Vi has just come back to life as well. Can they make this happen? Out comes the ult for the Misfortune just to get onto the Nexus as quickly as possible. The Nex is falling. It's at half health. It's at a quarter health, and that is just game for Liab. I was not expecting the game to end that way.
No, I mean, look, I'm going to be honest. You saw what happened when Liab engaged in a 5v5 with Bajaya. They got obliterated. Like, it wasn't even close, the team fight. Like, they got absolutely torn apart because their composition is not designed to team fight. I think Bajaya made the correct call. They were like, look, let's stop messing around with this side lane split push stuff. We can't compete. Like, our composition is not designed to do a 1-3-1. So let's just go force a 5v5 at Dragon. And you saw them at the Elder. They absolutely tore them apart. If Vi hadn't stolen the Elder Dragon, we could have been looking at a different game. Yeah. I think this game was single-handedly saved by Vi because you just saw that actually it was such a slow process for Liab in the 1-3-1. They weren't actually getting a huge amount. They weren't threatening inhibitor turrets. So Bajaya were just like, well, actually, I think we've got the item spikes to win a team fight now. Let's just go force a team fight. They did. They won. And if they got Elder Dragon and they got Baron, I reckon this game could have gone Bajaya Dragon's favor. But the big steal from Vi was absolutely huge.
That's just crazy, though, that Berjaya was actually able to take that team fight, even though they were at such a huge gold deficit. I mean, we saw Liab not only was winning in the little skirmishes, but they're also just winning the lanes. You know, they're getting more gold just overall. And yet somehow Berjaya, like you mentioned, with those key item spikes, despite being so far down and having the superior teamfight composition, just completely obliterated them. And this game is, you know, honestly, get out your notepads, guys and girls in the chat, because it's so interesting just to break this one down, seeing how, you know, for instance, yesterday, we always talked about don't just blindly take an objective, right? Because it ends up being 50-50. You're taking damage from whatever objectives you're trying to take, and it's just really painful, right? But in this case, with Berjaya needing to force any sort of 5v5 team fight, it ended up being the right decision for them. Like you mentioned, just unfortunate that the Vi got the steal in the end, but oh boy, they made it a game in the end there.
I mean, I was completely on board with what Alexandro said. They just can't. Liab's composition just really weak early. I mean, team fight. So that's why they were doing the 1-3-1 split pushing. But really, if this entire game, I think, was just saved by that one steal. Right? Even though they were doing their strategy pretty well, but if you give it the Bajara Dragon, the Elder Dragon, if they get the dragon, then I think it's GG's. But Elder Dragon is so strong in the game. We have emphasized him many times. And look at his steal. Yeah. It's just so... What the... I don't think they even realize they're getting contested with this. Look at this.
And then in the end there, as we were kind of desyncing our commentary, unfortunately, you saw Berjaya try to do the same trick over again by taking the Baron. But unfortunately, the Baron just does way too much damage. And then you add on to that the Elder Dragon buff that Liab got, and it was a bit too much for them to be able to take that team fight. But they really made something of it.
That is so unfortunate with the dragon over there. And then, I mean, so overall, what do y'all think about the game? Any post-game commentary?
Brilliant. I think one of the best games we've seen. I actually think, just in pure like tactical perspective, one of the best games I've seen of Wild Rift so far. Like, just, it may not have been explosive, it may not have been super exciting, but both teams played the game really intelligently. I actually think both teams played the game at a very high level. And it was just unfortunate that the steal came through. You can never predict steals. They're often a little bit 50-50. They're a bit coin flip. Big props to Vi, but often they're not as calculated. Like, she did that blind, by the way. She jumped into the dragon pit blind. She didn't have vision, so it was essentially like well-timed luck. I'm going to call it well-timed luck because
educated guess.
That was not.
She's like, she's coming in her head like 3, 2, 1. Yeah.
It was an educated guess that turned out correct, right? It was an educated guess that turned out, but it was not. That's not a good strategy to win a game. Like, she saved the game. But it was, in my opinion, a little bit lucky that she did so.
100%.
I'm going to say that, yeah.
And also at the Baron pit. I mean, like, right afterwards, Brea Dragon went for the Baron. But then they got wiped over there at the Baron pit, which turned out to be like, I think the play that actually made them lose the game, because at that point they know they have to get the Baron. Also, Monkey was just way too low. Monkey was playing at a slipper of health at the Dragon. I think that's also the reason why they lost it. Like,
I love how Wukong.
Yeah,
I love how Wukong
when I
is the
say
only.
monkey, I mean Wukong, right?
You always say monkey.
Yeah, if you
I
look
love
at
it's the only character that you'd say monkey instead of their actual.
Yeah, it's actually
Anyway, sorry,
it's actually Wukong. You're right. So if you look at
Sorry,
Wukong's HP here, starting the Dragon. He
Oh,
has
we don't
no
have
mana.
we don't have screen screen.
Yeah,
by the way,
I can't. Hold on. I don't know how to share screen. Let me just go ahead.
we can try again. We're having
Let
issues
me
with
see
the.
if I can share screen like this. Wait, I got it. Oh wait. All right, Discord crashed. We're having a lot of technical issues, guys, but don't worry, it's gonna. Okay, there we go. Now it's working. Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Okay,
We're back
so
now. We're back.
If you look at a Dragon here, how low the Monkey is, like before, after the one of the team fight, Monkey was already Wukong was hanging on to like a little bit of HP right here, with no mana. So, and I'm pretty sure he didn't have Smite here either, because they just went through a team fight, and it's very common for a jungler to use that Smite for extra damage and extra. Obviously, we don't have perspective on this Wukong to see does he have Chilling Smite, or if he has the Rest Smite, it's almost guaranteed he's gonna use it, because if you use Rest Smite, it gives you more stats in the team fight. You have to use it, and then he doesn't have it. Whereas this guy, the Vice is hanging over here, saving everything. Marita boy. What a guy.
Marita boy.
Marita boy.
I'm guessing.
Look,
the blind steel coming out.
This is completely blind right here. He doesn't have no vision in here, and then I
just
think
well timed. Just literally. Oh
Yeah.
my god, can't believe it. Yeah.
Oh my goodness! If you're Virginia, you're just flipping tables at that point. You're like, what?
I would be. The thing is though, like Liab was playing the correct game, right? Liab was playing the game that they needed to, which was through the 1-3-1, and Bajaya were just like, well, screw it, we're strong enough to win a team fight. So they made the correct decision. But if they hadn't stolen that dragon, I think this game would have been Bajaya's, because they could have just like regrouped, gone Baron, forced another 5v5 team fight, and then actually started pushing the towers as a group.
Yeah. Especially their comp's a lot better at teamfight, and they have Elder Dragon buff. That is just devastating.
This team fight was so crazy to me, because it seemed like Misfortune was getting so much damage off.
Yeah.
Albeit just on 2 members. So she gets her ult off on these 2 members. I guess the problem was that there wasn't enough damage outside of her, and she had to step really far forward just to try to get her damage in after this ultimate. And by that time, her team was already just completely getting wiped off the face of the planet. So
the problem is that Misfortune.
Go ahead.
Sorry, carry on, Dave.
No,
I was just gonna say. I was gonna say that Misfortune combos really well with a lot of CC, especially team-wide CC. So like Misfortune comboing with Orianna, or Misfortune comboing with like Wukong, or with Amumu. Those are all really good combos with Misfortune, because it creates this time and space for Misfortune to get big bullet time ultimates off. You don't really have that in this comp. Like, you've got a lot of single target lockdown. Camille, single target lockdown. Twisted Fate, single target lockdown. Janna often. Sometimes, if you're lucky, multiple members stuns, but like mostly is for like single target peel, right? That doesn't function particularly well with Misfortune, and that's why I don't think their teamfight comp was particularly good. So yeah, I think that they were trying to win through the 1-3-1. They just weren't getting enough advantages as quickly as they would have liked, and Bajaya hit the item spikes that they needed to go for a full-on team fight.
Here, I just want to point out that the power of GA, right? Like, look at how many. If you look at the team fight here, Liab actually, I think, won the initiation of the team fight. They were actually doing okay. Camille ulted, forced the team fight onto the Wukong, and it's actually a really good synergy. Camille ult plus the Misfortune ult, right? It's gonna do a lot of damage, but they both have GA, so they can take the damage for free, and they come back with Lulu, with everybody, with a big Aurelion Soul ult on top of just bought us so much time. I think that's how they turn a team fight around.
Well, he still, the GA still hasn't popped though on Wukong here.
Yeah,
so that's insane to me. That's insane to me that he was still alive through all of that. Yeah, I think it's just the combination. Did you see if a wild growth from the Lulu was put on him? Because he stayed alive a long time.
At the start of the fight, Wukong had wild growth applied to him.
Yeah, you applied to him. Yeah, at the very beginning, it was so he didn't have it. I guess they just kind of shifted the focus. Also, it was if you went back to look at it, it was just when they were trying to finish off the Wukong, and then Aurelion still just ulted everybody away. 4 people from Liab overlapped their position, and Arlen so landed like a 4-man ult to push all 4 of them like in the air for a second, and that turned everything around.
I see a lot of people in chat talking about it being like not being luck from Liab's side, but like, and this is just my personal opinion. They did so well, and they had a load of dragons. Obviously, they did so well for the majority of the game, but they don't win in a team fight. They like that you saw there. Like they should have been much further ahead than they were, and they got absolutely destroyed in the team fight because their composition wasn't supposed to be team fight orientated.
I have a good analogy. Okay, it's like if the the Golden State Warriors have a really bad possession, and Steph Curry just has to like do a fadeaway, just hoist at the buzzer, and it goes in. And it's like, yeah, it went in partially because he's good, and partially because he got lucky. You know, it's both. It's both.
Definitely a mixture of both. Yeah, true.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'll talk about it from chat's perspective so they can understand. The skill is understanding when you think the dragon's going to go down, and also understanding when to smite. So the skill from Vi came through from the fact that she hit the smite and she correctly timed it, but she had no vision. They could have stopped the damage. They could have just waited. They could have pulled the dragon out. They could have done anything because she had no vision of the dragon pit. She had no idea what they were doing to that dragon. She just assumed that they were going to damage it the same way that they had been doing before. And that was the lucky part. The skill came from the way that she timed it and the way that they went for the smite. However, the luck came from the fact that they had absolutely no vision. So if Bajaya Dragons wanted to be sneaky about it, they could have just stopped damaging the Elder Dragon for a little bit and baited Vi in and killed her and polymorphed it in the pit, right? But the skill came because he has no idea what's happening in that dragon pit. So it's lucky that he just assumed that they were damaging it at the same rate they always were. If Bajaya Dragons were trying to bait him, because they as Dave said, they were not expecting the steal. Bajaya Dragons had just thought they'd got the dragon for free. So they were like, oh, we've won this fight so easily, we've got the dragon for free. So they weren't expecting the steal whatsoever. But the lucky part was that if you look at from Vi's perspective again, she has no idea what's happening in the dragon pit up until that point. So the fact is that it was just lucky that they continued to attack the dragon the same way they always had been. But the skill came from the fact that she timed it correctly in her head and also hit the smite. It is a combination of both, and it can be a combination of both, and that's okay.
Yeah. The thing is, if you look at a team fight, at the starting of it, Y left a long time ago. Like, Y at this point, after the GA pop, the immediate reaction is to flash to the side and start running. So he was gone for a while. So I think the entire team of Bajaya Dragons kind of forgot that this Y still existed. So that also contributed towards that steal. Because also, at this point, you would reasonably assume this jungler would just go home and then reset, right? Get HP back, get whatever. But
exactly. They weren't expecting it.
So never
even if you're extremely vigilant and you were keeping track, or actually, especially if you're extremely vigilant and keeping track of what everyone's health was, you would have assumed that Vi just went back to base, right? And she actually was backing for a second there.
He was back for a while, and he was just hiding this.
He actually was polymorph too. Yeah.
And
I didn't think you could smite through polymorph. Can we look at that again, Dave?
You can actually smite when you're knocked up. You can smite anytime you want. That's why in Wall Rift there is so 50-50. It's not good. Look, he's polymorphed right here.
Yeah,
and he's smiting.
I did not think you could smite in polymorph. I really did not think you could smite in polymorph, but. Wow, it's crazy.
That's actually really well played by the Lulu, though. She had her
her
finger ready.
It's a no for everybody. In Wall Rift, if you get knocked up, qual control, any sort of qual control, it doesn't stop you from smiting. So if you're a jungle, that's why it's really important to get vision. And I don't think Bajaya Dragon did bad here. They had a ward here, you saw, right? This guy actually opened up the sweeper and find out that Bajaya Dragon does have a ward here on the other side. They just don't know this guy's in the bush because he was gone for so long, right? You expected him to recall. Like, he was gone for a good 10 seconds before the team fight ended. Like, he was dead. Yeah. Like, look, like, this is where Vi is right here. Mariah Baby, he died, right? He's reviving from the GA. And then he comes back up, like, right here. And then flash to the other side and start running. Like, this is where he was gone. And look how long the team fight lasted before they end up committing to the Elder Dragon. That's why they just forgot about him. They just thought this guy doesn't.
Yeah,
exist
they
anymore.
just forgot. But by the way, I just want to just clarify this. It's not disrespectful to say that someone gets lucky, because all professional play there is a mix of both luck and skill involved, right?
Yeah,
like there is a mix of both luck and skill involved. He was incredibly skillful to time it correctly and get the smite, but he was lucky that that he had no vision of it. Like, so he had no idea what was going on in that point.
Yeah.
So it's not disrespectful to say it's a mix of both, and that saved the game for them. If they lost that, I think they would have lost the game.
Yeah, definitely.
Honestly, anytime you see someone get away with like 1 HP, it's not always calculated, guys. It's a meme for a reason. Sometimes there's a lot of luck in these games, even though it's like 90% skill. Literally anything that's competitive, other than maybe chess, there's some luck involved. Guys.
But definitely, guys, that was an amazing play by Y, as we said, because it has taken a lot of, you have to kind of calculate with your heart, right? To calculate this dragon, and then you have to assume that they're damaging the dragon, just like Condor was saying, at the same rate that they were doing before. And then obviously that's what happened, but you have to feel that in your heart. Like, that comes from a lot of experience, come from a lot of games, and then you develop that kind of calculation, that feel, right? And once you have that, you go in, you find out they're actually doing that, you smited it. And it also, again, it comes down from another thing that we talk about. Wukong definitely had nothing there. No mana, no skill, no HP, right? Nothing. So they were just hitting the dragon. They were not expecting that. But what a play by Team Leah. Big win for game 1. We're going to take a short break and solve some technical issues to make sure that we have our, all the stream, all the stuff in sync. We're going to take a short minute break here. Don't go far. Liab versus Berjaya Dragon Match 2 is coming up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the 2021 World Rift Asia Brawl, brought to you by Trovo.live, all the way in Asia, of course, called Asia Brawl. And now we're in the second game between Liab and Berjaya Dragons. Very exciting match one. What a roller coaster ride, emotional ride as well. We're coming to match two. Who are we gonna see at match point? Are we gonna see just a dominating series for Liab, or are we gonna see a game 3? We shall find out. The band picks already started for the game 2. So without further ado, guys, let me hand it over to our caster desk, bring to you by D2 and Xcondro.
Thank you very much, Dave. And we are looking at this draft right now. Let me tell you at least 3 of the bans. We're not sure about the last one, but Leah banned Akali and Evelyn, and Berjaya banned Lee Sin and Mystery. I'm looking forward to this game quite a bit because the game 1 was very, very technical. Maybe not the most exciting game for a normal audience, but for nerds like us, it was certainly very exciting.
Yeah, it was a really, really exciting game, actually. And we are now loading in for another one. I'm going to keep up both perspectives on the 2 streams that we have of our individual players, so we can kind of see what's going on in the game, and hopefully we can keep you up to tabs with it. We are watching from the Liab point of view to begin with, and these compositions. This is looking much better for a Lulu composition, but sorry, for a Misfortune composition. By the way, you've got the Wukong to help set up those big bullet time ultimates. So this is much more a traditional Misfortune team fight composition from Liab this time round. So we're expecting maybe a bit more team fight presence from these guys in this particular game.
Yeah, exactly. Having that Wukong and the Lulu to help in that front line. And getting the damage from the back from the Ari, and the Misfortune will probably be very powerful. But we do, it looks like, have an invade coming out here from Berjaya Dragons, trying to get in on the side of Liab here. It looks like a lot of damage is coming onto one of our members. Looks like Brawl does go down immediately. And I'm gonna actually try to sync my own stream to the stream that I'm getting from Dave, so we can maybe work this out here.
Yeah, I'm watching from Berjaya Dragon's point of view. So I've managed to sync the Berjaya Dragons stream to the Dave stream right now. Unfortunately, Liab's point of view is much further behind, so I will not be able to watch from Liab's point of view. We're having some tech issues on Dave's end where we can't really see what's going on in the game. So I'm just watching from the Liab personal stream right now with the Braum Draven lane, as we've got Draven. An interesting pick actually in the current meta. Snowball's really hard, but if you don't snowball, it's kind of useless. And also Misfortune is usually considered a little bit of a counter into Draven because you can just keep using her first ability, her double up, and it's very, very difficult for Draven to trade if Misfortune doesn't get close enough.
Yeah, we've seen quite a lot of Draven actually, to mentioning that. And it's just, the damage just kind of gets out of control, not to mention his passive and all the gold that he can accumulate here. And you're starting to see the problem with him, though, because Brom's trying to stay in front of him, and now we have 2 people trying to chase axes. It doesn't really work out too well. Like, Brom's like, where are you going, buddy?
Looks like they're just going to go for this, or set up this Rift Scholar. They've gone for a Gragas jungle, by the way. Super interesting, because I think it's actually the weakest position that Gragas can play in on the map, mainly because the gold income's much lower in the jungle. Looks like he flash engages into the mid lane, but nothing comes of it. We are still looking at a relatively even game state so far. There is the Draven damage coming through onto the Lulu, though. Lulu is one of those supports that is incredibly strong, a very, very strong lane bully, but unfortunately, she has a very, very low health pool. So if you get stuck into a trade where you're getting a lot of damage put onto you, it's quite difficult to trade back. You can see like one Draven basic attack takes away like 10%, 15% of her HP in one go. However, Draven took a hell of a lot of damage in return.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to chase down those axes really set him back, and he's going to have to go back to that honey fruit to make sure he's, close to topped off, let's say. But Liab Gaming definitely putting the pressure on here. You see that the abilities coming out from Misfortune just really wailing on both the Draven and even the Braum getting extremely low here. Taking a look at the Liab perspective, looks like Misfortune is out of mana. Probably going to go back pretty soon here, but she's done quite a bit of work in order to make sure that the opposing dual lane is hurting for sure.
So we're just checking on Liab's perspective, going to use that bullet time to clear things out. But in the time being, it's still relatively even across the board. I reckon a lot of this game's going to be cracked open when we get to that dragon fight, we'll have to see. The dragon obviously being the main point of contention in the early game. It's the ocean drake, so it's a pretty big deal. Not a huge deal, but a pretty big deal nonetheless.
While we're talking about that, what do you think is the most important dragon? I'm pretty sure Dave thinks it's the infernal dragon, but what do you think?
I think it's probably infernal dragon most of the time.
Yeah, just get that damage. Damage.
Yeah, I think mounting can be good against certain compositions, but I think for the most part, infernal dragon is just that flat damage increase, so it's just really good for that. But I think mounting can be good. I think cloud can be good for certain compositions as well. All of them are decent. Like, I'm never going to pass up a dragon, right? I'm never going to pass up a dragon.
I'm not going to pass it up, No. It's kind of funny because if I'm not mistaken, I think that they swapped lanes at the beginning and we had both duos in the Baron lane. Am I mistaken?
They did, yeah. Yeah, we had a double lane swap.
So now it looks like we have Berjaya trying to take this dragon here. Big jump from the Wukong on. There's the wild growth. Lots of damage coming out on the side of Berjaya. He's going to try to get out of there, but there's already a kill on to the Braum. Trying to look for more. Iris kind of a little bit of trouble. Has to back off for a moment, but they're staying strong. Trying to get onto him. The Hextech ult comes out to try to get one more kill. They do manage to snag one onto the Gragas. And even more aggression coming out here from Leah. But the Lulu extremely low has to go. But the ult, the long distance fade away from the Draven gets her, knocks her down, and looks like Leah cannot continue this chase.
Actually, that's a little bit of a worrying position for Liab to be in because they have just given a load of gold over to Draven. He has got all those stacks. He has not died. That's a big gold injection for this Draven now. So they're going to have to be a little careful, even though that fight definitely went in favor of Liab. And I think I much prefer this composition with the Misfortune. You see the power of the team fight. I would say, Misfortune Gambit's ultimate placement in that fight, I don't think was ideal. I think he was trying to at least apply damage to the dragon and make it harder to be stolen away. But I think if I'd aimed it a little bit further towards the Tri-Brush, it would have had more genuine impact. However, at the end of the day, they won the team fight. You see the power of the Lulu Wukong in combination with Misfortune. That is the strong 5v5 that we were expecting. That's what, I think they would have wanted last game, especially as the game progressed. But it's, again, a good start from Liab this time round. They are looking strong once more.
Yeah, exactly. Not only did they get the 3-1 fight win, they also got the dragon. And really the only thing, like you mentioned, that's concerning is the farm coming out from our Draven here. I think that, as much as I try to sync my streams, it's pretty hard to watch Dave's stream. So I'm trying to look at my own. I'm trying to sync it. But no matter how much I try, I keep going into the future. For some reason, it feels like I'm always a couple of seconds ahead. So if I start predicting the future, I'm not a prophet. I just see the stream a little bit ahead, guys. In any case, we have our teams really just mixing it up here. We have Draven and the Braum just kind of hanging around this mid lane at the moment. And... Oh, excuse me.
Just from chat's perspective, we are watching the Bajai Dragons point of view on our streams because, again, we don't have a spectator mode right now in Wild Rift, so we're kind of watching through a screen share that Dave is showing to us, but that screen share is quite laggy and very pixelated, so it's very difficult to tell what's going on sometimes. So we're watching the personal stream of Bajai Dragons.
Actually,
Sagi, I think his name is.
My Liab perspective is actually on time, so I'm just switching back and forth when Dave.
Maybe I need to refresh
and the stream
and get
perspective
my
is on Liab right now.
The stream perspective.
Every time you switch, I switch with
on Liab. I've switched over to Liab now once more, so I've got mine back in time as well. So we're watching Gambit just in the mid lane. He's got that Guardian Angel, the classic first item for a lot of AD carries in the meta right now, especially Jhin and Misfortune. We can see Misfortune now just has that GA ready to go. It's looking good right now for Liab. Like, they're in a strong position. I think they're now setting up for this Rift Herald. You can see the Ahri and the Wukong posturing around that area. The next dragon spawning in just under a minute's time. So we're going to see yet another likely explosive team fight here, D2. And I am favoring Liab right now. The problem with Fiora is that she's in my opinion, Fiora is a worse version of Camille. Because Camille split pushes just as hard as Fiora, but Fiora actually can be useful in team fights. Camille can actually be useful in team fights, whereas Fiora is just a bit Like, Fiora's her main job is just to be a split pusher. It is a dive though onto Camille though.
Yeah, there's a dive onto her. We saw Gragas kind of sharking around in the area for the longest time. Looks like Camille's getting extremely low. Meanwhile, in this mid lane, we have some pressure here onto the Draven, unable to take him down. Finally, they get the Camille. That took quite a long time, and 4 members of Brigaya, it seems like, to do so. So they end up getting her in the end. The ult comes out from Draven to make sure that the mid lane is cleared, essentially. But, you know, in the end, even though it seemed like there were a lot of resources applied to that top lane there, at least from what you're seeing, the dragon lane, I should say. Even though a lot of resources expended there, they kind of came out ahead, talking about Brigaya Dragons in that situation.
Yeah, I think it was a relatively even trade overall. Like, apart from losing the Camille, the big thing now is what's going to be happening around this dragon fight. You can see Fiora has like siphoned off back into the Baron lane. She's going to again exert split push pressure on this turret. I just think that if we went into a full-on team fight here, I am favoring Liab overall. I don't think the team fight composition is as good. I mean, I think Orianna can make a team fight composition in her own right, but the problem is the Fiora is like the sore thumb in this comp. Like she doesn't do she's not as good as Camille in terms of impacting in the fight. I think her split push pressure is really strong, and I think I think her 1v1 potential versus Camille as the game scales up is really good as well. So in terms of pure side lane pressure, Fiora's going to be able to match Camille relatively easily. But in terms of team fight presence, absolutely no way. Camille is 10 times more useful than team fight. The dragon has been started though. Fiora is rotating down, and Camille is not. So this looks like it could be a good spot for Brigaya Dragons.
Yeah, all the members of Brigaya onto the dragon there. It looks like rotations are coming here from Liab. Again, it's extremely low, and it is stolen by the Wukong, able to take it out at the last second there. And the team fight seems to be going their way as well. Bolt time comes out. Big ult comes from Orianna, but she falls. Gragas fell earlier in the fight, as well as this continues to rage on. Gambit just using that ability to life soak, get some of that health back, and they were just diving this turret, trying to get all the kills that they possibly can. The GA still keeping this Wukong alive, even though he hasn't even popped it yet. They do get the Draven in the end, and it looks like only Camille fell, and I don't even know where she fell, actually. Was she even in that fight? But
yeah, I think she had the Fiora ultimate on top of her. We're going to see the fight back again. I mean, that shockwave was beautiful. That shockwave was absolutely gorgeous. But honestly, you're just seeing the two differentials in team fight power. Once that shockwave's down, you have a very lackluster team fight coming out from Brigaya Dragons. Whereas this time round, Liab, they can combo their ultimates so well. They've got plenty of team fight CC and disruption. You saw how useless Fiora was in that fight. Like, Fiora absolutely was like a sack of potatoes in that fight. Her ultimate, I don't even think she procced a single vital on her ultimate.
No, she didn't.
Exactly. That you're seeing the problem with Fiora. Like if you're playing a team fight game, which I think Wild Rift is very team fight orientated right now, Fiora's useless. Like, she really just isn't that good.
I mean, Camille had all her vital points showing. She was completely new, just walking up to them, just like, come at me, bro. No fear at all. Like, doesn't even matter if you pop her ult. We're gonna be perfectly fine. Even the misfortune just running up with absolutely no mana, like, yeah, I could take this. This will be fine. And the Barons actually started here from Liab, kind of a dangerous situation. Brigaya trying to come in, big engage coming out here from the Gragas. He's going to be kind of focused down, but the damage comes out. He does fall in the end, but already the Aria's dropped. I believe the G has been popped on the Wukong as well, and Liab might have to lick their wounds and go home here.
Yeah, that was a little bit overreaching from Liab, in my opinion. They unfortunately didn't have the prowess to go straight for that Baron. They trade 1-for-1 overall, and also they stopped the Baron from going down because the Gragas has been killed. So you never want to go for a neutral objective once your jungler is down, because you risk what we saw in the last game, which was just purely a smite steal. But this time it won't actually be a 50-50. It will just be literally a smite steal. So yeah, I think Liab just a little bit overreaching in that scenario. They maybe need a bit more time to set up for that kind of play. But I definitely think Baron's on the cards within the next few moments. The big objective, I think, for Liab will be the mid lane tier 1 tower. Get that down, push your vision into the enemy side jungle, then you can set up for Baron relatively easily. The next Drake will be Infernal as well. Be a big deal for whichever team, especially for the team like Liab, who don't like Liab's scaling is okay. But you're going up against an Orianna who scales insanely well. Gragas scales pretty well as well. Fiora is a great side lane scaler. So I think getting the Infernal just gives you a bit of a late game insurance policy for the Liab composition.
All right, so we are back on the Liab point of view here. We had actually switched over to the Brigaya just to see that last Baron fight. unfold. Just kind of switching it back and forth with our producer Dave here on and kind of matching it on our own feeds. But it looks like we have a bit of a skirmish here, trying to push in on that all-important middle turret that really gives you that control of the opponent's jungle. Neither of them really pushing too far into the turrets of the opposing team, so not a whole lot of control that can be imposed here by either Berjaya or Liab. Oh, big bullet time. Well, tries to go for the ult there. Gets a decent amount of damage and looks like it's going to continue to try to put that damage on to Berjaya, but they're going to go ahead and back off, and this is just going to be another reset.
Well, you can see the power of Braum versus Misfortune here in its own right. Like, Braum single-handedly stopped that ultimate from being impactful, even though they did potentially catch out the Draven. I'm also loving what Berjaya are doing with the Fiora. They know that she's not particularly strong in these team fights, so constantly sending Fiora to the side lanes to be a nuisance, pulling the Camille away from these team fight situations as well, making the team fights a little more even as a strict 4v4. We have a Dragon opening up here, though. Oh, the engage comes through.
Yeah, they were extremely low, but at the cavalry coming in here from Leah makes sure that Braum just completely evaporates, even though he is such a big boy. Here comes the ultimate coming out from the Camille, trying to continue that damage. The stasis comes out to try to keep them a little alive longer. Camille able to get out with the kill and her life in the end. That is a 2-4-0 in favor of Leah. Obviously, we have the Fiora pushing bot, but I think that Leah will take that one.
Yeah, you'll take a single tower for Inferno Dragon any stage of the day. And this is the problem that I have, D2, in general with split push compositions. I don't think you have enough time in Wild Rift to really play a true split push composition. I think the game's too fast-paced, and I think the team fights open up too quickly. Like, the time between objectives is much, much shorter in Wild Rift compared to traditional League of Legends. So these kind of like these split push ideas that you can have, they're so difficult to execute on because you never really get the time to do them properly, unless you are like insanely ahead of your opponent. Yeah, and also the fact that the map is the... Carry on.
Sorry, just to add to your point from the perspective of other mobile games, in Wild Rift, kills give you so much more an advantage compared to the other objectives, right? Just as far as turrets are concerned, it's actually much easier to take turrets in other games. And so in this game, split pushing isn't quite as powerful because it's not quite as easy. Just push down a lane as quickly as you can in other games. And so you can see that not much was done by Fiora in exchange for what was taken back here from Liev.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the problems I have, that I actually genuinely think that the tactical strength of a lot of champions, like I said, Fiora in League of Legends PC, Fiora is a meme. Like, she literally only split pushes. So when you pick her, the enemy team knows exactly what you're going to do. I'll talk about it later because we've got a fight breaking out. Yeah,
exactly. We have the Braum trying to come in, gets the ult off on only the Misfortune, but no real follow-up. Looks like there's going to be an ult popped here. The Wild Growth goes out on the Irish. She's actually going to try to go back in, wants to make full use of that ultimate, that big boy ultimate use on her, but unfortunately not able to get a really good engage. Both teams just kind of trading tit for tat, but no kills. Both teams looks like they're going to back off in the end.
Yeah, it was actually a pretty poor team fight from Liab overall. They executed it very, very badly. The Misfortune ultimate wasn't there. Ari got caught, had to stasis and then ult away. Yeah, and they lose mid lane tower for it. Really lovely punish from Berjaya Dragons. And not the best team fight selection there. And again, going for Baron, very risky to do so when you don't have a massive advantage. I understand why they went for Baron D2. They saw the Gragas, they saw a lot of people on the top side of the map. They thought they could get it down quickly, but the response from they're going for it again. Are they asking for trouble? I mean, they're taking it down relatively quickly right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're on the Berjaya perspective right now, so I don't think Berjaya really knows what's going on. I'll tell you what's happening from the Leah perspective as you guys watch that, but it looks like the Wukong's able to take it down in the end. The Fiora tries to come in and get some damage and does get the GA pop here onto one of the members of Leah, but it looks like the revenge, the counter attack is on. Gragas goes down, Braum goes down. This is already a 2-4-0. You see Fiora fighting in that bottom lane against, I believe that's Camille. Wukong is going to go over and try to help the situation. And they actually do take out Fiora in the end. So that is a 3-4-0. That is a Baron, and that looks like a massive lead here for Leah, potentially game ending.
I think it could be game ending. They've got a massive man advantage. It's so difficult to clear these Baron waves, especially as something like an Orianna. Oh, they're going to play it safe though. They're playing it safe. They're going to run it by what we call painting by numbers in League of Legends. You just go down every lane, kill every turret, take every inhibitor. That looks like what Liab are going to do here. Just try and be a bit safer about it.
Wait,
but yeah,
so
I kind of want to return to that.
What color is the bottom turret? Sorry. What is the color of the bottom turret if they're painting by numbers?
I don't know, like yellow. Yes. I want to return to the early discussion that we had D2, which was interesting because I genuinely think a lot of league champions have a very specific identity. Okay, we're not going to have this discussion because we've got a Baron fight.
Oh, good. Well, it looks like a very one-sided Baron fight because the immediate flash over by the Wukong, or it could have been his third ability, I don't really care, but because it was absolutely massive, they demolished Berjaya, and this will almost certainly be the end of the game this time.
Absolutely. They're going to get this easily. Game over. 2-0 for Liab, and you can see when they draft a more traditional team fight comp, they are much stronger in their fights around this neutral objectives. They had one bad team fight around that first Baron attempt, but everything else was really clean from Liab overall. And you can see the strength of this, the strength of the way they played it. But I'd love to bring Dave in on this discussion that we're having. So I think it was an interesting discussion. I feel like there are a lot of champions in League that have a specific identity about what they can do. Like Fiora, as I said, she's always traditionally been known in League of Legends as a pure split push champion. She doesn't do well in team fights, and I think that's very similar in Wild Rift. Is there a problem? Do you think, Dave? Do you think there's a problem where the identities of champions just aren't good for competitive right now because things like split push doesn't work very well?
Okay, so. The same thing can be said for many heroes, right? That can be used for a split push. Like, what about Yasuo?
Of course, yeah, no, not just Fiora, right?
Yeah. Same thing can apply to a lot of heroes that's really good at split pushing, but just completely kind of useless in team fights. Same as Jax, right? 1-on-1, there's almost no one can beat him. But then if you put him in a team fight perspective, like he becomes, just kind of weird. Similar here, like. I don't know yet because the game is so new in Wild Rift. We're still exploring the meta. Yes, the split pushing, the game pace is a lot faster compared to PC. Yes, Wild Rift, a map is a lot smaller than PC. You have a lot less room for you to split push while putting pressure and then go across to the other side of the map. So the enemy team have to respond, and now all of a sudden you have a number advantage in team fights. It's a lot harder to pull that off, but with faster pace, it also means maybe your team can just play more aggressive. Maybe you're looking to bait jungle at the same time. I think it's just because the game is so new, because we've seen this in many other mobile MOBAs as well. Like when they try to pull off mobile, split push strategies, it takes a while for people to develop that. Because if you want to do that, you're also trying to play a much more awkward pace games. Are you gonna just completely split push on both sides, or are you gonna split push to one side and just do the 4-1, and then just try to invade the other side because you're strong? So you can do that in multiple different directions. So I don't know. I can't give you a definitive answer for a comment.
One thing
I think that's a fair assessment. I think essentially you're looking at the fact that it's a very new game, and traditionally when a game comes out and it's new to people, they will just team fight because it's the easiest and most natural thing to do. And split pushing takes much more coordination to make work. So I completely get that. I'd love to see it developed. I really want to see it be a thing because I like breadth of tactics. I don't want the game to be dominated by which team fight is better over and over again.
Exactly.
Well,
go ahead.
The developers certainly made it so that team fights were extremely important, though, which I don't disagree with, because in other games sometimes we see 0 team fights and the game just ends by people running circles around them and not actually fighting, and then all the turrets are down and it's like the game's over. So that was a little bit boring in a sense. I have an opinion just from watching the game earlier with the 1v3